Bore da pawb, hello everybody, welcome to my wild Welsh garden, which is extremely wet this morning. So that was first thing this morning, but it's dry now and it hasn't rained for several hours, but it does look like it may well rain later. So I'm going to take advantage of this window of opportunity to prepare the edges of my lawn to be sown with yellow rattle. I haven't cut the edges of the lawn at all, I've just left it all summer. And the result is this sort of very mini meadow with grass and different sort of weeds and wildflowers. And it's very good habitat for invertebrates and insects. It's just absolutely full of a myriad of little creeping flying things. And ideally, I would leave it over the winter for all those little creatures to have a home in. There are all sorts of different flowers in here. There are dandelions and daisies and wild strawberries and fox and cubs and red clover and willow herb and bird's foot trefoil. But there is also an awful lot of grass, and the danger there is that the grass will outcompete the flowers and kind of take over. So I'm going to sow it with yellow rattle. Yellow rattle is native to the UK. It has a lovely yellow flower and it's semi-parasitic on grass. So it grows on the grass and it takes some of the food from the grass, and so the grass becomes less vigorous and it gives the wildflowers more of a chance. And September's the time to do it, but it does need to be sown into bare soil. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to cut all this lovely long grass down. So that's my first job. I'm going to cut all this grass down so that it's the same level as the grass in the middle of the lawn. And unfortunately, from an insect's point of view, things are going to have to get worse before they get better. But hopefully this will improve the habitat in this area overall. Okay, so that was a couple of days ago. I actually had to stop doing what I was doing a couple of days ago because I managed to cut my finger on the billhook. It wasn't too bad, but it was enough to make me feel a bit ill and have to sit down for a while. But I think it's okay. I've rested for a couple of days, and yesterday it poured with rain all day, and I don't think I set foot outside the house. But today it's dry and my hand's feeling a lot better, so here I am. And I've cut off all the messy edges and I've created these two lovely haystacks. They're not going to stay there because I've also been busy near the compost heaps. So this was the corner that had the bramble, and I've cut it down, and I've also cut down an ancient hydrangea that was in the corner that wasn't doing anybody any favours. The bramble's here, that's going to go over the road into the dead hedge, and that's where I'm going to pile the two haystacks. And all the grass and weeds that I cut off, I've piled here in this corner. So I've created another habitat pile for creatures. So things like grass snakes could live in here, and all manner of invertebrates. So yeah, so another home for creatures over the winter. So this is what the lawn looks like now. It looks absolutely horrible. And I have to create some bare soil, bare earth to sow the yellow rattle seeds in. So what I'm going to do is cut the lawn as short as I can, but of course it's absolutely sopping wet. Now, I can't see, this being Wales, that this is going to dry out now before next spring. And so as it can't really look any worse, I'm going to cut it anyway, but not just yet. I'm going to leave it till this afternoon. Fingers crossed it won't rain, and come out with the mower this afternoon and cut it as short as I can, and then give it a rake over, and then I should have some bare earth to sow my yellow rattle seeds in. And look what I found sitting in the middle of the path under the rose arch this morning. It's a common frog, but of course not quite so common anymore. And yeah, this makes me so happy. This is the first adult frog I've ever found in my garden that wasn't spawning. So for the first time this spring, I had adult frogs actually in my pond, and I had frog spawn. Didn't see many tadpoles and haven't seen any little frogs. So I'm afraid I've probably got too many newts and dragonfly larvae in my pond for frogs to reproduce there. But maybe in the new pond, maybe they'll find a home there. But yeah, so I was so pleased to see this adult frog. But then I thought it was looking a little bit vulnerable sitting in the middle of the path, because there are cats around. I don't think cats eat frogs, but they certainly play with them and do a lot of damage. And I do have magpies, and I know a magpie would take a frog. So I just encouraged him to hide away in the foliage. I put some bits of apple on this old bird bath for the butterflies, and look who's visiting. Lovely red admiral butterfly. So here we are, it's all finished. I'm trying to remember what I did now. Yes, I mowed it, and then I raked it, and then I mowed it again. So yeah, it's a poor little lawn. I've quite a going over. But I think I've got plenty of bare soil here, bare earth. I think actually some of these patches are ants' nests. I'm pretty sure that's an ant's nest. And that's where the bird bath used to be. So yeah, plenty of places that I can sow my yellow rattle seed. And here's the yellow rattle seed. You can buy this from any of the wildflower merchants, but like I said, it has to be sown fresh, so it has to be this year's seed. If it's last year's, then it won't be any good. So I'm going to just scatter this all round where I left the grass to grow long this year. So that's done. There's the seed, and I've trampled on it. I've walked all over it to make sure it's in contact with the soil. And so all I've got to do now is wait for the rain. And I probably won't have to wait very long. So I filled the bird bath back up. And then the very last thing I'm going to do is to plant these cookie flowers, these lady's smock, into the lawn. So I've set them out in groups of 3 on that side and 5 down there, of course. I haven't put any over there in that corner because I planted some there last spring, and I'm hoping that they're going to come up again next year. But you know, I'm not going to plant them now. Cutting and raking the lawn was actually quite strenuous, and yeah, I've sat down and I suddenly feel very tired. So I'm just going to sit here in the sunshine because it really is rather pleasant. Well, I didn't have to wait very long for it to rain. It rained in the night, and then it rained the next day, and the next night, and it rained the next day, and it rained last night, and it rained again this morning. So I think my yellow rattle seeds are pretty well watered in. But there has been a sunny interval or two, like at the moment, and I've planted my cuckoo flowers, the lady's smock. So I'm looking forward to seeing these flower next year, I hope. And I've bought myself a mushroom. I went to the Heart of the Valleys show on Saturday, and there was a chap there who makes sculptures with a chainsaw, and I bought this little mushroom. And I think it's made from larch, and so it will sort of season and become greyer as it ages, and I think it will look quite good there when the foliage all grows up. So, like I said earlier, from the point of view of an insect or an invertebrate, this lawn is really not very good because there's not much habitat for them. But the idea is that because of the yellow rattle seed, the biodiversity of the plants will increase, and that will be better in the long run for the insects and the invertebrates. And I'm coming up to my first YouTube birthday. It was this time last year that I started my YouTube channel. I put out my first video, I think, on the 22nd of September. And I've kind of been thinking about where I go from here, really. And the thing is that this winter I don't have any big projects that I'm going to be doing. Last winter I replaced all the paths, and I made the grassy areas, and I made a new pond. And this year I'm not going to do any of that. The only thing I'm going to do is to grow more wildflowers. So at the moment I'm collecting wildflower seeds, and I'm sowing wildflower seeds, and I'm also keeping them to sow them next spring. But I'm not going to do any sort of tidying up or maintenance of the garden over the winter. I'm not going to do anything now until spring. I'm just going to leave everything for the creatures over winter to spend the winter under and in, and hopefully I shall have more insects, more invertebrates, more birds, more amphibians, maybe even a reptile next year. And so I've decided I'm not going to do so many videos over the winter. This past year I've done at least one video a week, often 2 videos a week. And I don't think I'm going to be able to sustain that over the winter, really. So I'm just going to do one a month, I think. I'm going to keep up with the garden tours each month and just keep the channel going until next spring. And then, yeah, we'll see what happens. So I shall be doing my sort of birthday YouTube garden tour in a week or so, hopefully to get it out on the 22nd of September on my YouTube birthday. And then I'll just be doing it once a month from then on. So thanks for joining me again in my wild Welsh garden. I've really enjoyed having you company, and reading all your comments and hearing about your gardens all over the world. And I mean, that will continue. It just won't be quite so often. So yeah, so thanks for joining me. Thanks for watching the video. Please like and subscribe and keep up to date over the winter. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye. Wildflower.